cell phone it is.
So,
It's a really great thing it is.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our Monday, May 13th Cascade City Council meeting. I'd have a call to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Oliphant.
Here.
Roush.
Here.
Hush.
Here.
Gale.
Here.
Delaney.
Here.
Need a motion to approve the agenda.
Make motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Gale,
Second.
second by Oliphant. All in favor?
Aye.
Before public comment, I'd like to make a comment about the great job the Cougar Pride Group did in town. If you notice the nice shiny red fire hydrants and just all the other public service things that group did, they were absolutely awesome. They deserve a little bit of, they did a great job.
They did.
At this point, we'll have public comment. You have a limit of 3 minutes per person on agenda items and local government issues. Seeing none, we'll go to consent agenda. We have minutes, City Council 4/22/24, May 13, 2024 claims, and with the claims would be a $60,000 claim approval for Rob Napper for 3B properties. April monthly reports, number 3, we have liquor annual renewal for Bill Oni LLC, doing business as the Bent Rim. Is there any
I
questions?
just have a few items in the claims report. First one's Alliant Energy Parks electric bill. Small amount, but
So that is, what says Parks Electric?
Yeah, we took it over from Cascade Enhancement Committee.
Yeah, but I don't think that's at the Parks, is it?
it's just a Alliant.
So what it is we were giving the enhancement committee money, and instead of giving them money, we're gonna pay the electric bill. They pay the electric bill on the exterior signs, you know, like, not the billboards, but the 2 rock signs that just
Okay.
say Cascade, there's lights on those. So we just transfer that into
Okay.
our name. So
Okay.
that's new, that you would have not seen that before. And I
Okay.
think the one that's in Alliance World is the one that's south of,
Okay. Butte
no, the
County-
one closer to
okay,
or
that's
Cedar
fine.
Rapids.
Butte County Treasurer, there's, I think maybe 3 parcels there for $1,208.
So those are the library parcels, and that'll be our last tax bill, but because on January 1 of this tax bill, it's all based on January 1, so then we received prorated money at the
Okay.
time of closing. And now I did confirm with Billy, the county assessor, that they're all tax exempt now, but there was the 1 year that you don't get out of taxes if you purchase it after January 1.
Okay. And then the Wilco Inc. M joint CPV, is that the well?
No, that's for the wastewater plant. There was a valve.
Okay,
It was a joint that went between, I believe, there's 2 basins, and the water was not going between the 2 like it's supposed to.
okay.
There was also a bill in there for Kennedy Painting for the bathrooms down at the park.
Correct?
Is that all good to go now? Was everything replaced that needed to be replaced?
No, we're on our 3rd one. We're trying to get stainless steel toilet paper holders, dispensers. So we ordered them from Myers Cox, where we usually get all of our toilet paper, and it came and it had a face of stainless steel, and then all the components on the inside were plastic. And we were trying to have them not be plastic. So then we just ordered 2 that came from Amazon on the internet. And now the toilet paper that we use in the other ones does not fit, because they don't really explain to you like the hole. And so we're trying to either figure out different toilet paper, or should we keep the metal ones, just not worry about it and get plastic again. Obviously with the fire, the plastic burning instead of stainless steel creates a lot more smoke and smothering, which caused a lot of the damage. So we were trying to go with stainless steel, at least at the city park. So the one thing that's left is the middle stall in the girls does not have toilet paper, so it's closed. But there's 2 stalls in there that work, and then the boys is fine.
Thank you.
Otherwise, it's done.
If there's no other questions, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Delaney,
Second.
second by Hush. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 7, consideration of ordinance number 09-24, water services material used to replace right-of-ways, and this is the second reading of 3.
We talked about this at the last meeting. This makes sure that when a homeowner has to replace their water or sewer services in our right-of-way, that if they have an asphalt or concrete road, that this is clearly requiring them to place the material that was there prior to that is what they use for replacement. And kind of more important now that we're doing more highway work on 136, that will be concrete. So that's what both 9 and 11 are.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 0924.
Motion by Roush,
Second.
second by Hush. Roll call.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Number 8, consideration of ordinance number 11-24, building sewers and connections material used to replace right-of-ways. This is the second reading of 3.
Same explanation as the last agenda item.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant, second by Gale. Roll call.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Number 9, consideration of ordinance number 10-24, utility billing errors and adjustment policy. This is the second reading.
We did receive legal counsel. I explained last time that we do have the ability without this ordinance to collect things that are not billed properly on the utility bill. However, doing this makes it more clear that we have a set time period of going back 3 years, or either way. If we overbill you, we would give you a refund 3 years back, or if we underbill you 3 years back.
If there's no questions, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Delaney,
Second?
second by Oliphant. Roll call.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Number 10, consideration of resolution number 49-24, declaring a 1998 Freightliner fire truck as surplus equipment.
Believe that everyone on the council will recall that we have entered into a purchase with Toyn, and our truck is getting closer to it being complete, and therefore, we would like the council to declare surplus the current truck that we're using. You'll recall that going forward after this truck, the trucks will always be owned jointly with the surrounding townships. And so this will be fully replaced. It will be, all revenue will come back to the city. But going forward, as we buy them together, the revenue would be split. But this one was originally purchased by the city. So we'll be looking at a variety of different means to sell it to try and make sure that we get the best price. And we really have no idea.
Okay, that was my question.
Is there a governmental website that they advertise that on?
Yeah,
So,
we have to kind of look at prices, commissions, things like that.
gotcha. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by
to-
Roush,
Second?
second by Oliphant. Roll call.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
I do have a picture of the new truck if anybody would want to see it.
Where'd you get that?
I think it's Nick. Sent me a text.
Nice, thanks, Nick. Thanks for sending
I
that.
think it was him. I didn't have whoever number it was.
I know that there's some like website that they give you when you are going through the process of
Doing,
purchasing one, where they'll like sometimes send you some, but he's usually watching, so we'll see if he,
they give you a progress report.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Number 11, request from the Cascade Economic Development Corporation for additional funding for fiscal year '24.
So Brad Ludwig, Cascade Economic Development Corporation. We're here tonight. Previously, we received $20,000 a year for contributions to economic development. And last August, we spoke in front of you guys and we talked about $10,000 and then doing a $2,500 rebate to help out get the chamber position off the ground. And then I think it was agreed upon, not agreed upon technically, but, you know, informally agreed upon that we get $7,500 in the December, January timeframe if we came back and presented it to the council. So I guess we're here tonight just to see where, you know, request the $7,500 from this fiscal year and our additional $20,000 for the upcoming fiscal year of 2024 and 2025. So just that's what our request is.
Can we change that any leads come to the city? Because anybody that's a potential developer, the first thing they want to know is what the incentives are. It'd streamline the whole process. Because if they come to CDC, CDC has to come to the city for whatever the incentives are. I think it would be more streamlined to have it the other way around.
I was gonna say, I don't know if it has to come directly to the city, but
They have to be a part of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the past, what's happened is people want to come to us confidentially, or Project XYZ. They've come to Economic Development Corporation. We can get the details as much as possible, and then we can give them the incentive packages that they would need. You know, that's how we've always, Ken's here, but that's how we've always done in the past, is if they come to Economic Development Corporation, I ask them, do you want to keep it confidential, or do you want it public? And if they say, I want to keep it confidential, and then my next question is, are you okay if the city knows about it? And they say, I want to keep it confidential. So in my role, I say, hey, okay, we can do this. We can get Project XYZ confidential, put an offer on the table, and that's how we do it, Steve. The concern I have is, same with us, is if we bring it to the city and we bring it to the city council, it's public information. You know, and they don't want it public. That's how we handled Central. That's how we handled Premium Plant Services. They wanted to keep it confidential to the point where it's not confidential any longer. You know, the challenge I see is right now with the current TIF agreement, we don't have a current TIF agreement where we can go back to them and say, Mr. Confidential, or XYZ, this is our proposal based on the number of jobs, based on what you're willing to put out there. And so sometimes these proposals need to be turned around in 48 hours. It's been a couple of years since we had to turn a proposal around in 48 hours, but that's how we've handled things in the past, Steve. So, you know, we give it the individual companies or businesses the opportunity to remain confidential as long as they aren't confidential any longer.
And I apologize for my ignorance, Brad, but is there a different level of confidentiality if it's just like our city administrator versus the whole council? Because my fear is that things can get very siloed, whereas like our city administrator should be aware of the zoning law, like issues or any issues that could arise, and gas and electric, the utilities portion of it, being able to have more of an understanding of that piece. Because from my understanding is you guys are getting these guys to come in and get businesses to come in and look at and consider Cascade, but like, you know, meat and potatoes, that would be the city administrator that would have a little bit more of that background.
Yeah, you're right. So we're at high level, prospect level, and we're not gonna bring somebody to the community that we don't get to that point where they don't know the zoning at every, you know, to that level. So we start out initial prospect level, we get them to the point where they're interested in Cascade, and then it's a point of, okay, here's the zoning, here's what we need to do. And if they have specific questions on that, then we will get to the city earlier.
So you guys aren't like laying out packages or anything like that in those initial conversations? Okay.
Yeah, good question, Riley. So we're just looking for, in the past, we've always had kind of an incentive package where if you bring this many jobs, the city you may be eligible for X from the city. And so that's what we're communicating to the prospect. We're not giving them a package saying this is what you qualify for. we'll say, this is what you may be eligible for, subject to city approval. So if they want to go to the next step, that's when we get the city involved. But right now, if someone, like the most recent prospect we had, came and said, what kind of incentives are out there for a business? You know, we don't know, because, you know, nothing, is it in the, are they eligible for tax, real estate tax rebates, or things like that? You know, so that's kind of what the guidance we're looking for from the council, so that we can tell them, as they compare to, do they want to locate in Monticello, Dyersville, Farley? You know, they look at what incentives they may be eligible for there, and what they may be eligible for in Cascade, and then they decide, okay, yeah, let's take it to the next step, so.
So would they still be confidential at that point, Ken?
Yes, they're still confidential at that point. yeah.
Okay. And would you bring in the city administrator at that time, when they're asking what they're eligible for?
Sure, if at the time that they want to get a package put together, yeah, then we'd have the city administrator involved, so that we're obviously giving them all of the correct information when it gets down to the specifics of it.
So, okay, I'm just, and this is me also not knowing your process that well, how it goes. So, okay, so you get a lead or somebody prospect-wise that's coming in that may be looking at Cascade. What's that process?
So if they come to us,
Right, so you say that when they come to you.
yep.
So then do you guys have a board meeting and
So-
discuss it? Or what's that process? What's that step?
We will
Walk me
have a
through
board
that.
meeting if it's necessary, you know, if it's needed. So for example, if somebody comes and wants 40 acres and it's 200 jobs, and it's not gonna be a good fit for Cascade, then we more than likely aren't gonna have a board meeting. But if I see the potential, or if our, Ken sees the potential for someone to come to our community, we're gonna have a special meeting if we see the potential there. But typically, the proposal is, we'll put a proposal together, work with the city administrator, and turn around and give them a proposal in a short period of time, if that's the case. You know, where we're struggling now is other communities have a TIF program guidelines out there where they can turn around in 48 hours and say, hey, we're gonna give you 80% TIF for 10 years. You know, or we're gonna give 60% TIF for 10 years, and we don't know what that looks like on our end.
So, okay, and I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm saying this correctly. So the league comes in, and then you and Ken
Typically, yeah,
sort out whether you think it'd be a fit for Cascade or not,
correct.
and jobs wise, and then if you think it is, then you can take it to your board, but if you think it's not, then,
If we think it's a fit for the board, we're gonna go. We're gonna talk to the city, we're gonna do everything we can possibly
So-
do to get it into the community.
what's that criteria look like? I mean, like, is there like a checkbox list? I mean, what checks your box for this is gonna be good? Or what checks your box of this isn't gonna be a fit?
The criteria is we evaluate, like, we don't have a check box theory on it. So like, if somebody wants to go out there and build a 40-unit storage, we're probably not gonna pursue that lead, because our focus is industry out there, or creating jobs. You know, we wanna make sure it's a good fit for the park. So we will also wanna be conscientious of other people's time, like.
So just as an example, ECIA gave us a lead for a company, and Brad, you can fill in the details too. A company that wanted, how many acres were they looking for?
They wanted 8 acres, 70 jobs. We don't have any spade-ready ground, and they wanted to start by June 1st. So it's gonna be hard, and we don't have the ground available for that individual. So why do we wanna spend time and resources on someone like that? And it's coming from at the state level. So there's other people that are competing with it.
What does ready ground mean?
You level, you have to have utilities to it, and we don't have that.
What constitutes that type of a timeline?
They did.
That they would have to have something available by June 1st?
It specifically said June 1st on it.
Okay.
And they want to be up and running by April 15th of next year with the building,
Oh,
80,000 square foot building, 100 parking spots. And I'm not sure how we don't have any spade-ready ground currently that could,
How long would it take to move dirt?
well, it would probably take longer than 2 months to move dirt. You know, and once again, it's a proposal.
yeah.
So we're competing with all the other communities out there,
That already have their dirt moved.
yes.
Got it.
You know.
Well, we don't know that, we don't know for sure.
That could potentially have their dirt moved.
Right.
Sorry, let me correct that.
We don't know, they could be in the same boat as we are.
So like that instance, they'd be building from ground up.
Yes.
I was like, initially I was like a building already there, like, okay, that makes more sense.
They want the ground ready, they want to
So that
start
they can build.
construction June 1st. And it was a great opportunity for it, but we don't have 8 acres that's spade ready.
So,
And we have to be, you know, we're also, in addition to having the type of property that they want, we have to be pretty forced to be able to satisfy the number of jobs that they're gonna be creating as well.
Yeah, when you said 70 people, I was like, ooh.
So, you know, there's lots of different factors that go into it. You know, we're gonna try to put every deal together that seems reasonable, but, you know, there's just some deals. For example, if there's an industry that, and I'm not gonna name industries, but obviously there's certain industries that are less desirable for communities that, you know, we kind of shy away from, whether they have a huge requirement to the sanitary sewer system or, you know, certain amount of water that they need or things like that, you know, that just aren't gonna be a fit. You know, we try to vet those as much as we can, because if we bring every one of those deals to the city knowing that, you know, they're not doable, it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of our time. and
yeah,
So.
and I agree on that part. I don't think we want it to go like that, but I don't, and this is just me. I feel like that would be something that the mayor should be privy to. I'm not, just not, and not as so much as like bring it to city, but like to be, for collaboration, to sit in,
Sure.
to know that it's there
So.
is a possibility.
I mean, the city has representation on our board. There's,
When it comes to the board.
right,
But
And
not
so-
when the deals come for possibility. Because you know what I'm saying, when we're structuring this out, at the end of the day, it's the citizens of Cascade and the taxpayers of Cascade who are going to take on whatever is decided upon, or not decided upon. So lose, I just think that we should have representation in the deal. Not so much as a deciding factor in the deal, but someone from the city involved in the deal, whether or not we do, you know what I mean?
so,
Just in that process of, like, that person, that league comes, and it's here, so say it was for 70 jobs or whatever, right? And you guys are kind of looking at this guy going, can we do this? I think, from my perspective, and I may be wrong in the scope, but I think at least the mayor should be aware in that, whoever the mayor is in that prospect. Because the city of Cascade and the taxpayers are the ones who are going to benefit or have to take on that responsibility at some point. I honestly think there
Yeah.
should be someone, and especially since the bill is being footed by us.
yeah, and we're not opposed to that, but where do you draw that line? I mean.
Yeah,
where-
I mean,
does-
I don't think
does
the mayor
every-
the mayor chooses what comes on the agenda and what the city becomes aware of. But I think
Right.
the mayor, out of everyone sitting at this table, would be the one in that forefront that would be the one that would at least be aware. Yeah.
So I guess at some point, we have to have a level of trust with the Economic Development Corporation. We are a nonprofit organization that is not tied to the city. And if you guys are not willing to fund economic development to the level we asked, that's perfectly fine. We'll figure something else out. But where we struggle is, this is my 6th time at a council meeting this year, and we're asking for $7,500 additional funding for this year, and trying to figure out where the city's level of commitment for economic development is going forward. So my concern is, I do think there has to be a partnership. That has to be a partnership.
And we have to be at that table for it to be a partnership.
Right, and I feel like it has to be a partnership for us to develop the community, but for us to come in and send you a proposal for somebody that wants 40 acres for 200 jobs, I don't think, do we want to waste our time with that? So what we do is we try to evaluate, we screen, we try to look at companies that could have potential for the city of Cascade. So,
But that would also be an email or a conversation with the mayor, as well as it is with Ken, then we have a seat at the table.
But on the note of employees, when Jimmy Heister was here with Premier Tooling, he moved to Piasta and started out from square one and employed 100 and some employees. If he could do it there, why can't somebody else do that here?
you're right, I guess you are. I want to thank you guys for all the support in the past. I am officially going to be stepping down, so thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to have some clarification here. About a year ago, Rick Dickinson was here, and we were on the council at that point. And he basically just, from Greater Dubuque, and he expressed surprise that there was a economic development had to close a meeting, and Jason White, who was representative of Greater Dubuque, was asked to leave. If you guys remember that, he said, "We are here to partner with the city." The Greater Dubuque was here to partner with the city rather than excluding. So I think it is important that the city does likewise have some type of, when a prospect has come along, if they're looking for a railroad spur, or they're looking for an airstrip or something like that, there are certain things that are obvious, whatever. But at some point, I think the city does need to be involved. In other words, we are a partner along with the Economic Development Corporation, ECIA, Greater Dubuque, even the different utilities, the REC goes to most of our meetings and those type things. And I said, he was very, kind of surprised that they closed out one of their people. It's like, you want more people. As far as actually being on the committee, what you'll find is as a member, we usually don't know the names. You don't want to find out it's ABC company from Sioux City or something like that. You don't want that to be spread around. So there's a certain amount of secrecy there. But I would certainly think that, like Mike said, the mayor, and I think
And
the
the
city.
mayor doesn't have to know the name of the company either, that we have a prospect that's looking at the ground out there,
Yeah.
having that same conversation that's going on between, because otherwise, we do have a silo going on. We have one or two people deciding whether or not a company is going to be fit for Cascade.
Well-
And I think the taxpayers should be represented in some of that by the mayor or someone.
I think both.
Because they've invested over $1 million in the infrastructure to make the industrial park.
They, the taxpayers. That's what you mean by that.
I think-
Okay, so let's get back to what they came here for. Okay, they came here asking for $7,500. Okay, I think we kind of went off track of what we wanted to talk about. I mean, I understand the whole thing that they were trying to do, and Bill, you're on the board, so you have more probably insight than we do, but are we gonna give them $7,500? I mean, that's what they came for. I mean, they didn't came for us to ask why the mayor ain't involved in it or so-and-so ain't involved. They asked for $7,500. So, I mean, I would like to ask the question what they're gonna use it for, but we didn't get the time to do that. So are we gonna give them the money or are we not gonna give them the money? I guess that's what, I mean, do they deserve the money, Bill? I mean, or do you guys need the money? I mean, that's the question, I guess.
And I'm not the treasurer.
No, I know that. I know,
and
you
whatever.
know.
I understand, we definitely have to decide on that, Chad. At the same time, I think we need to have stronger ties to it. I think
A better
the mayor,
partnership.
and definitely the city administrator. I think in the past, there's been, problems with, right-of-ways, streets that were going through there and setbacks and those type of things. I think we need to be tied in closer to that initial, some of that initial work that's being done, so.
So this would have been prior to Chad being on there, but we have an agreement with them, which I put a little paragraph in your memo about that. So one of the things that's required, and this was language that came from the auditors, and to Chad's point, yes, you have to make a decision on the money, but I think to blend in what Bill is saying, my recommendation is that if you want to give them additional money, not only do they need to provide us revenues, because it talks in there not just about turning in, like, when we gave them the $10,000, they did provide us $10,000 worth of invoices so that we can see they spent it. But they're also basically supposed to give us revenues and expenditures as a whole for their organization, and then say, here's the invoices for the $10,000. So that would answer some of the questions also about, and then I suggested that saying, explain what you're gonna do with the money. In the meeting that I had, that turned into exactly what happened here, which was when I asked them to explain to the council, in fairness to you making that decision, and you have a higher standard that you have to live by according to the auditors than you used to a couple years ago when you just gave them $20,000. So I think, going back, my suggestion before you make the decision is, whether that's Bill and another council member sitting down and maybe not being in this venue, but to say, here's some of the things, and you can say, if we're going to provide city tax dollars, we do have to have a seat at the table that Mike was explaining. What I learned was that they receive those prospects because they belong as a member to Prosperity Eastern Iowa. And so we could say, as a part of the city contributing funds that help pay for that, we would like to see those same emails. And I just want to clarify, at least in my experience for 30 years, there is a level of confidentiality. They are correct. But where it's always happened for me as a city administrator, and it's unique when you don't have one, but when you do, you task me with economic development. So I am held to the exact same standard as they are. And there's going to be times where I'm negotiating for a month or two, and my person that I'm going to always keep informed is the mayor. Just like I do about other stuff. There's always, the most informed person is the mayor, and then when it comes time to the elected officials as the council members knowing, you're always going to know when it's your time to know. But it is true that developers don't want to think that elected officials are going to know, because this mayor may keep it confidential and the next mayor may not. And so there's a level of having a city administrator involved in that. So I don't think we're saying, like, they kind of talked about if we come to the council. That is not, at least for my experience, if an organization like the EDC was coming to the city, it would be coming to me. I would keep the mayor informed, because I'm the one that's held to a standard of understanding those things and doing that. And then the elected officials, I know when you need to know and when you're going to approve something. And I always preface that with, and I kind of explained that to Brad when we talked about these prospects. I said, we're going to have to make it clear to people that, like, when the city needs to be involved, the city administrator understands this level of confidentiality. That's who would be involved. And then I would be able to come in and say, look, like, I do understand how the council's perspective is on economic development. This is something I believe that is fair to recommend. And when it comes time, they're going to know. We're not just going to throw it on an agenda. It's going to get to the threshold that says, look, we're now to a threshold where it's going to be the elected officials get involved. Again, I would explain, like, hey, I'm going to let the mayor know, but the mayor understands, and I will emphasize to whoever the mayor is at that time that I'm working for is, like, this is very important. Sometimes they might know, to your point, like, I may know the name of the company, but the mayor may know ABC is this type of a company. Like, I got all the way through 9 months in Eldridge of working on one, and people begged me, even though we were number 2 and didn't make it, and they went to Missouri, like, people tried to get me to tell them who it was. I was like, I'm not telling you. Like, I signed a confidentiality agreement that I wasn't telling people. And I didn't tell. Like, so we understand that. And I just think that's different than what we're used to. You know.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to make it mad or anything. I wanted to see what the process was that came in to. And,
How it's handled.
well, and we were talking about the $20,000 we gave when we gave for ECIA, and we were gonna see how it goes and give them the $7,500 to continue ongoing and see how things were going. But as we were talking here and this process came out, I'm just kinda like, well, how does that work, and why aren't we having somebody somewhere from the
And-
city involved in that? Does that sound weird?
It's not weird.
No, but also I'm kind of wondering what has ECIA done this year to, because from past meetings, my understanding is that like our 20,000 has gone to pay ECIA,
Right.
but what have we gotten? If we're getting leads from a different entity that's not ECIA, or is it run by ECIA? I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like a mix. So ECIA is the cog, so we're a member as the city. And then the EDC hires them separately, if you remember when their director came and said, our allegiance is to our cities, but we want to support the CDC as long as the city's good with it. So then they have a contract with the CDC. And then it sounds like this Prosperity Eastern Iowa was created. ECI staff runs that, and they only give out the information to paying members, which I did confirm through our receipts that the EDC pays, which that's to me the point of, like, we have to say, if we're helping give you money and you're the member, we don't need to both be members. You just need to be willing to share that with us. And it's still, like, what they get is confidential. Like, you don't know when you get these proposals from the state. It is called Project Runway,
Okay.
Project something.
So let me get this straight. So what was the name of the other one there?
Prosperity Eastern Iowa.
Okay, so this is an organization that was created and is run by
ECIA staff.
ECIA staff. And they get leads from the state,
Correct.
which then they sell the leads.
To people who are members of their group.
So the only way you get the leads is if
To be a member.
you're a member.
Right. And my understanding, but I haven't, a call out to the state and haven't gotten called back, is that I don't think you're supposed to sell it, but the state doesn't have a mechanism to say what to do if you do. So
Okay.
our part of the world in Iowa, that's how they're doing it.
Okay, so if you're a member, then you get the information that comes in. So the only way you can we be a member?
Yep, for $350. But my question is, why, if we're giving 10,000, 17,500,
Right.
or 20,000 to the EDC, wouldn't you make it part of your agreement to say, we don't both need to pay for the exact same information? We would like all Brad would have to do is say to ECIA, hey, Holly, when you send it out to me, CC Lisa. That's it.
I feel
Why
like
should we
we're
both pay
working against each
$350?
other right now instead of working together.
Right.
Like, I just want to see the proposals.
Yeah. And the thing is, when there's people looking at Cascade to develop, they're incentive shopping. And I think that's why the city should be up in the forefront of anything, because if it's all about incentives, they come from here. And it's more clarity to have that firsthand knowledge rather than go through a couple channels to get that same information out to people.
Part of the hard thing too about what they're asking for with incentives just being on, like, they just want us to give them a piece of paper that says, here's our boilerplate. And I do think that since 2015, whether Cascade came along for the ride at the right time, my understanding is that in Iowa, I wasn't here back then, but in Iowa, like when I was in Wisconsin, you could just put into your urban renewal plan, we want to give out incentives, we want to build roads, put in utilities, and it was a very generic statement. And then you could just, you cut deals with people, but you didn't have to go through this whole public hearing thing. And so now the state of Iowa says each business that you want to entertain, each project that you want to entertain has to have its own public hearing and go before the council with its own merits. And so I would think that we are not following the true spirit of the law by just having a boilerplate piece of paper. So for me, like, if somebody comes forward and says they want to do something, we need to do our own due diligence on behalf of the taxpayers to say, are you venturing into something that you have some experience about? Just like a bank would. You know, they're going to look at your ability to succeed in this. We take more risk than a bank would, by no means. We certainly would. But you would look at, like, if you're gonna, you just would look at what you're doing, you know, like if you look at the two that have been out, like the meat market, like they were in a business like that in their own homes, right? Like it was out at their farm. So there's somebody that you can say, all right, you have experience doing this and the chance of you succeeding and understanding the process is good. As opposed to like, hey, there's no meat block places and I just want to get into that. You know, so you would look at those things, and so I have not been supportive of giving them a boilerplate, and my understanding of what Dorsey and Whitney tells us as the legal counsel. But that doesn't mean that they're not correct, that maybe Monticello and Dyersville do that. It doesn't mean it's right. Because people kind of, and I don't know. I just think that we have to be part of the discussion, and I don't think having the city involved makes all confidentiality go away. It just doesn't.
Good.
I've done a lot of deals where I've signed the agreements myself, and I've never, ever broken those agreements.
That
And-
same degree of confidentiality would be here also.
Right,
That's no different than confidentiality with CDC.
correct.
You know, the same degree would be expected of anything that's brought here.
So, to bring this full circle, I guess, like, do Bill and the mayor, do you go back and meet with the CEDC and ask them what they're gonna be using the additional $7,500 for? And, you know,
back.
with that, then we do expect that at minimum, the city administrator, who then is informing the mayor of these prospective.
Because I think it's two kinds of perspectives. There could be someone that calls them directly, and then there's these state proposals that come from Prosperity. Like, they both have that's to me like the two ways it's gonna happen. Just like if someone came here, I have to call them, because who am I to say what land we would sell? Like, I couldn't just start cutting a deal with somebody
But
if they came here.
If they come here and are comfortable with the incentives, then the next step would be the land acquisition.
Right, and
Or
I would
the
immediately get
availability.
them involved to say, all right, like, how can we chunk this up based on
Yeah.
what they need? So if I got to the point of, hey, yeah, they're gonna come here, and then we haven't invited the EDC to the conversation, like, that's just as
Well, I'm thinking more of like, it should just be,
together.
yeah, together.
Yeah.
It should be, you got the information, everybody's got the information. Brad shoots off an email and says, yeah, I don't know about this. I don't think it's gonna be I don't think we can do this. And then there's another email or something. You know, I'm not seeing it being like this drawn out big thing. I think it's.
It's a sharing of information.
Yeah, of back and forth, working together type thing. And I think that's what I was kind of pushing on that a little bit, that we need more of. And-
Since we have 3 more meetings in the year, could we, like, I think Bill probably has to be at the table because you're a board member, and then maybe Mike, you're willing to, and the mayor, and try to invite them to a smaller meeting to be able to have a conversation, and then bring it back to the council at the next
I mean,
meeting.
Bill, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think rather than being two separate entities, there's got to be a certain amount of comment, you know.
Because we're in it together,
Common thought
right?
there.
I mean,
It's all for what's best for the community.
and I'm not trying to say in any way, shape, or form, because I think they serve a very good purpose. And I'm not saying any way, shape, or form that we should take over, replace, or anything like that. I'm just talking about working together, just more of it. You know, I think that sharing of information is good for everybody all the way around. I don't think it should be siloed into a certain area. I think maybe we might see something that we might be going, hey, what about this?
Mhm.
You know, they don't know about it.
I think they're a very valuable entity. I think that it can get really siloed, and I agree. I think it would be nice to have the bigger picture available to them, too, through the city.
Bill, Mike, and Steve, are you willing to
Sure.
I would.
Yeah, no.
just have to decide who reaches out and tries to set it up? So should we put this on in 2 weeks and try to get that done? Mayor, you go with that?
Well, what does everybody else want to do? I mean, do you guys want to do it with the money and wait, or what's everybody say? Yeah, Chad?
Table it until you guys meet.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's my opinion.
Okay.
Number 12, discussion on city ownership of industrial court and Oak Hill Storm Detention Basin.
So So some of these, as you know, we just sort of figure out. So I was looking at something on the Beacon map and clicking on industrial court, and usually when you look at this map, can you flip to the next
Oh, sorry.
page 35? So when you look at a street, it usually doesn't look like a red line, like a parcel number. It's just kind of like a continuous, like, right-of-way. So where those pink X's are, that's still a privately owned lot by Mike Beck. We maintain it, we plow it. Obviously, it's not a very old road, so it's not a long time coming, but the intent, the other thing is, remember, we got RISE grant money, so clearly RISE grant money wouldn't have come to build a private road. So I think that just was an oversight to not get that sent in. So if you remember, that's kind of like what we did on Langworthy Court, except that was a long time ago decision. So the process that we went through there was that they had their attorneys write a deed. We made sure that they had clear title. Quick had our attorney review it, and then came before the council, just accepting that in the form of a resolution. You know, again, when I talk to city staff, we're basically treating it like it's a city road, so. Is everyone okay? I just don't want to make everybody go through that work if someone has a concern about it. Again, we have the ordinance that says you can't develop land that's not abutted to a public right-of-way, so both of those businesses on the back end of, you know, the east side of the court, the end of the court would be not really legal lots either if it was a private road. So is everyone okay if I bring that forward for a future meeting?
I assume that there is supposed to be a turnaround easement.
It explains that, yes. It doesn't exactly look like that, but I think, yes, in the paperwork that we had, they had to create a little bit more there, so we'll have to work on
I
that.
think for even a semi turnaround is right interpretation.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
Okay.
And then, let me talk about the second part of that one.
Yep.
So then, can you go to the next page, Mike?
Yep.
So then there's a detention pond that's kind of southeast of the well house, northwest of the first curve on Mulberry. So again, it's not really practical for homeowners associations or subdivisions to own these kind of large detention basins. So we own one on the east side of Redwood already. That would be like across the street from you, Megan, and like behind some of the houses, I think, that are further south of you. Like if you're looking out your house to the right, like back there, there's a detention basin that we already own. So we already have this practice. I talked to the staff about it, and they did have a good suggestion that I think is a good idea for the council to support, which, because that's been in existence for a while, there's always a degree of maintenance that goes along with these, and it's usually just cleaning them out and getting the silt. There's like a small drain, so it's meant to be, it holds water and then disseminates it slowly, but it's meant to be dry. It's not meant to be a pond. And so because sediment builds up there, especially when there's construction, the guys had a good idea today from Public Works that in return for taking it on, that we would ask Mike to make sure that that silt is removed prior to us taking ownership. So that's one thing I didn't discuss with him, but I think is appropriate if we're gonna take it over, that at least we start with a clean slate, that the drain, the area around the drain in the middle is cleaned out. Because we did, on the one that we own when I first came, so I believe it was the summer of '22, we had to hire Mark Weber to,
For the overflow.
yep, to kind of get that cleaned out. And, you know, it's not a ton of money, but it's $1,000 to $2,000 probably by the time they do some earthwork down there. So I think that would be appropriate for Mike to do before we take it.
The other thing is the tree removal, because before long, the trees will overwhelm that basin. So the trees also need to be removed.
At least some of the ones in the middle. I don't know where
Yeah,
they are.
because
I didn't look at that.
they're really growing.
Do we ultimately have to cut, that would have to be mowed or what's?
I think a lot of it is like a natural prairie grass area, because I think that also kind of,
Looks like on the south side.
Like the dark area, everything else is truly grass.
it is.
Yep.
So eventually, yeah, we'd have to mow it if we own it. And I think what kind of happens is as a subdivision like that transforms and more things happen, eventually those spaces get taken by cities, because it's like, who's gonna maintain them?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of bigger towns, bigger cities, we see like, it's, all the retention ponds have like riprap all the way around them on the outside. Why don't we do that in Cascade?
No idea.
It's just never been.
I'm guessing that's the sandy end of town, right? So that's probably also, like, if you had more clay-based soil, like we do on the west end of town, I think that that probably also helps it to have more, like, substance around it, but I can ask. I'm not
I
sure.
was just curious.
I think the riprap just adds a visual aspect to it, because there's really no erosion concern on the sides of the basin. You know.
So is everybody okay, again, bringing that forward to be the same thing, they'd have a deed to transfer the lot? And then, are you okay if I ask Mike to make sure that the center of it is cleaned out before we take it?
Yeah, if they clean the center, they'd take the trees also, because they're in there.
Is everyone supportive of that?
Yep.
All right, so that'll come back later. Thank you.
Number 13, consideration of resolution number 51-24, appointment of Gail Walter to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Her letter's in the packet. I think Chad is the one that introduced her name to me, so she had spoken to Chad, I think, about being interested in serving on one of our boards, and the mayor, you also
I
took the
visited with her, and
opportunity to meet
she's
with her.
extremely personable.
Yep, she's only
she'd be
lived here
good.
for a short time, but interested in getting involved.
She's definitely got some qualifications.
Thank you.
So resolution 5124 would be to appoint her, and then it's actually a couple months longer than the 3 years, just because of the way the vacancies have transpired, so she would go till 27.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Gale,
I'll second.
second by Delaney, roll call.
Oliphant,
Aye.
Roush,
Aye.
Hush,
Aye.
Gale,
Aye.
Delaney,
Aye.
Number 14, discussion on city code weed and grass height restrictions, 6 to 8 inch maximum height.
So if you look at 41 and 42 in your packet, these are in the same section of the code, and I believe it was Officer Stainer and I were talking about something, and he was reading it for another purpose, and he's like, hey, we have a 6 and an 8 inch reference. So I would say 6 inches maybe is a little bit too shy, although by the time you get to the 8, it's usually obnoxiously long, so it's kind of.
You're gonna need to bail your yard after you're done.
Right. So one of those two, obviously, we're never gonna be like sending out letters when it's 4 inches and then putting the crack down on people. But I would say that I need to clean up one of these, and so you guys need to decide if you're supportive of 6 or 8, and then my plan would just be to bring a cleanup ordinance back to you. I don't know, Fred, Chief, you have an opinion either?
Kind of the way we've always looked at it, and again, this is an exceptional year. I know my yard's gonna need to be cut again, and it's probably, I cut it Wednesday last week, and it's probably 6 inches now. So,
Sending you a letter according to that one.
yeah, yeah.
Can she
So-
borrow
Send
your
yourself a letter,
handcuffs?
please.
Yeah. And the last couple of years, we didn't have to worry about this because we didn't have the moisture, we had heat, everything was dry, you know, we're kind of in that drought mode. Yeah, again, kind of an exceptional year. The way we've looked at it is, we've always looked at it about 8 inches. If it was approaching that, we're knocking on the doors anyway. So,
Just change it up to 8 across the board and be good.
yeah, yeah, and if it's gonna be close, you know, if we drive by and you can tell somebody hasn't cut their grass for a while, we're gonna be knocking on the door, even if it's 6 or 7 inches, just to give them enough time that, hey, when it hits 8 inches, this is, you know, you're in violation of the ordinance, so. And a lot of times, that's just more or less the knock on the door is for educational purposes more than anything, to let them know that we do have this ordinance and this is what you need to be looking at. So, I know my neighbor told Riley earlier, my neighbor cut his grass on Sunday and came over to my house and said, how's your back? I'm like, what do you mean? He had 3 of the little green totes filled with grass. He bagged everything up, and then he had his big tote filled. He wanted help loading everything in the back of his truck. He was gonna be gone today and tomorrow, and he figured by the time he got back Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, it's gonna be raining again. He was gonna have a hayfield, so
Oh, yeah.
he cut it early. Yeah, 'cause I didn't think his was bad, but he got it cut yesterday, so.
So you want to have 8, everybody supportive of 8?
Works for me.
I like
Okay.
8.
And a reminder to
Thank you, Fred.
people as well,
Thanks,
the
Fred.
chief's been helpful with this, but there are people that are blowing their clippings into the road. And so anytime that we've seen them, chief has gone around and just, again, friendly reminder to people, and they usually get it out of the road right away and then reminders the next time
Something
to
to
not
remind,
blow it.
because like we hire a high school kid to do ours and he had no idea. So just if you're hiring it done, make sure you let your people know too.
Right. Yeah, we had a business that had a new person doing it as well, and Brad stopped over and reminded him, so. All right, 8 inches it is. We'll bring that back.
Gotcha. Number 15, consideration of resolution number 52-24, approval of Highway 136 Iowa DOT contract amendment.
So this is an amendment to the original contract, which you'll recall, we did, the DOT was very generous in helping us pay for sidewalks, and then we were gonna get $120,000 from a county-run program that's state funding. But somewhere through our conversations of approval, the county did not understand that it was a locally let project, which made us ineligible for that funding. And at the last minute, if you recall, we had already approved borrowing the money, and so ECIA on our behalf went to the state and advocated for us to get some other sort of funding directly from the DOT instead of through that program. And they were very gracious again to give us that funding. And so because the price was significantly lower than what we had originally estimated, remember it came in at like 1.6 million, and the estimates were over 2 million. So they just said as long as we're amending to add the 120 to come from a different pot of money from the DOT, they also lowered the prices. And so this is really just a cleanup of those things, and so I would recommend approval of the amendment.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 52-24.
Motion by Roush.
Second.
Second by Oliphant, roll call.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Number 16, Highway 136 update and weekly newsletter sign up.
So we had, I had a conversation with MSA and have asked them, once the project starts after Memorial Day, and Cody, the engineer that designed it, will be here every day as our inspector. So I have asked him to provide us with a short weekly update on everything that's happened. And then if you go to our website, the directions are here, but you go to the city, then to city government, city admin, then there is a tab for the Highway 136, and then citizens can sign up for those weekly updates. So just in terms of the residents, I thought that was easier than us. We'll still just be emailing it, so none of you have to sign up for it. We'll make sure all of you and staff and everybody gets it. But if citizens are interested in that, or if you hear of anyone that's interested in that, I think that's a good way for us. It'll also be on our website, but if they sign up via this place on our website, we'll just email it to people directly.
Is there any way to get something pushed out on the app too?
We can do notifiers. We can say like weekly update, and then it would direct them to that webpage.
Perfect.
So anyway, that is that, if anybody's interested that you know of. And then just a reminder that we start 2 weeks from tomorrow is when the road will start getting shut down. I've communicated with all 12 direct residents that we got easements from to make sure that they were all aware of it. Also made sure that like McDermott's owning Lions, Jake and Jackie owning Moski's, building owners, anybody that's kind of in that immediate area. And then was just waiting for this, and then we'll start posting things. Also, remember that Buchanan Street will be changing to the two-way. I think that we will do that the week before. So probably next Monday, on the 20th, I think we'll start putting up the stop signs that the guys ordered for the cross street, so everybody on second
They're
already
comfortable with it.
stops. But third, fourth, fifth, they all have to stop now, once those go up. So hoping that we can do that on the 20th.
When you go down that street, there's the one road that has, the one spot that has the big dip. Do we need a sign that says dip?
That's kind of a speed bump.
That's a fourth and fifth.
Just, most cars I feel like would bottom out.
Oh, when you look at the scars on the paving from people
Well, it's only
bottoming out.
25, why are you going 45?
Yeah.
Well, I know, I know the swing over and get
Oh, no, yeah, sure.
That's a dip that you only go through fast once.
Yeah,
Brad's
That
already
is
been
an
scoping
accuracy.
out his crossroads that he's gonna hide behind, so people.
that was the other
better
thing I
watch
was
out.
gonna ask. I know that was concern to some of the property owners, just the extra traffic.
Extra
and-
enforcement, yeah.
So,
Well, that
Yeah.
dip will help. If they hit that once, they ain't gonna go to.
Nope.
somebody gets a little air.
Oh, yeah, I remember that
one of your
Yeah.
kids, Chad? No, your girls would not do that. They're so sweet.
Thank you, that's all I have for that.
Number 17, consideration of resolution number 53-24, naming the newly developed park at Oak Hill Park.
So I put this on the park board's agenda. We're looking at signage for the dog park, and I thought as long as that playground will be open soon, that we should probably have an entrance sign on Mulberry on our driveway entrance there. So it seems like it's the appropriate time to name the park. The park board's recommendation is Oak Hill Park. Does anybody have any concerns on that name?
It flows
Park
well.
board wants, I'm good
What?
with it. That's what the park board wants, I'm good with it.
I think
So then we would just.
Mayor
so that-
Napper Park sounds great, too.
It's pretty
Just saying.
straightforward. Good one.
Napster Park. So there would be the resolution approving it, so then we will officially have a name for it.
That's fine with me, but while we're on this topic, I've been noticing a lot of through traffic. Like turning up to drive into the park and then they just drive straight down. So I don't know if there's anything we can do to
We could probably barricade it at the other
prevent
end.
some people from doing that.
I know Mike and our staff goes through there,
Yeah.
but if regular citizens are, it's not really meant to be a thoroughfare.
You'd be amazed, like when it's dark out, you see lights that,
There's, yeah.
Riley's got the spy house.
yeah, we could see that from
The
our.
new Lover's Lane. Right by your place.
Nice. Lover's Lane in Cascade Island.
Yep.
Love it.
Turn at Riley's house.
And he'll turn you into Brad or Fred.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
I'll second it.
second by Gale. Roll call.
Hush,
Aye.
Gale,
Aye.
Delaney,
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Really quick though, also while we're on the park, how is the construction coming? What happened with the tarp that blew?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up in my
Oh, sorry.
report,
We can
but we
wait
can,
then.
if you wanna talk about it now, we can. So we had concerns, so if you haven't been out there, for those of you that haven't driven past it, there are 14-foot posts that come off the main center of what is the bigger kids' playground. And then there's a ginormous canopy that's on top of it. And we talked to the playground people and said, like, this does not seem like this is gonna work with the wind. And he's like, nope, it's 40 mile an hour, or 90 mile an hour winds guaranteed. I'm like, all right, well, we all kind of were leery. 3 days after they put it up, the whole thing is ripped and bent and a disaster. So we had the guy come out there, Cole is his name, he's our rep. Never seen anything like it, with the post completely bent. So he is advocating for us to get what'll be like the hard resin plastic that's like slide material, like all the other pieces out there. And so it'll just be a tiny little roof above it, and there might be another side that you can put those on. So between the rain and the pool, we have 2 weeks to get the pool ready, and so we did have to take a pause at the playground. So they will be over there to take those down. I don't know how quickly we'll get the replacement piece. It was quite a ways out, so I don't know if they have any little things like that in stock that they can ship fairly quickly. So our goal, assuming that I saw that there's a lot of rain again this week, so our goal was to try and have a little ribbon cutting kind of grand opening not next week, but the week after Memorial Day, so stay tuned. We were thinking maybe like that Thursday after Memorial Day. I have the mulch ready when we're ready, so what's left is to replace that piece. All the equipment is now in. I don't know that they actually are the swings on? I think they still have to hook up the swings, but the swing structure is there. And then the biggest next thing will be that we have the 10-foot beams that we got from Precast, and those are out there, so those will be the border, and then we have to kind of blend up the dirt so that it's really a zero entry. Then we'll have 140 yards of mulch. Just sounds like a lot. And then we were planning to kind of invite some bigger kids with rakes or parents with kids with rakes to they'll dump it into the edges of it. It won't be on the outside where you're actually carrying it. It'll just be people bringing rakes and then being able to do that. And then we're ready. So hopefully another couple weeks. But yeah, they kind of kidded like, oh, I wonder how the canopy is. And Greg went up there to mow and was like, what's happening? So that was
Go
very
back to the engineers and
unfortunate.
say, it is not rated for that.
Yes, and we asked Jill, because Jill has I didn't know this. The fire department told me that they had a meter for wind, which registered 50 miles an hour. And then they're like, oh, there's somebody named Jones up in up in Oak Hill that has it, and so I figured out that it was Jill, and she had registered at her house on the roof 35 miles an hour. So regardless, it was not 90. This is what we know. But even when the guys are working up there, it is, you know, as you guys all know that live up there, it's
windy.
a windy place. in the
So
world.
do they think what they're changing it to will,
Yeah, it's just literally gonna be like a little baby
That's
thing.
small.
That one, when we had to go through there, I thought, I didn't get my chairs in the night before, I thought it was coming through my window.
It didn't though?
No.
no?
How what? Yeah, they said, there's a guy named Jones up in Oak Hill that's got one. And then I was like, my friend Jill? And then I looked and I had your number. So, thank you for helping us with that.
Number 18, consideration of resolution number 54-24, a second GIS summer employee.
So as you know, we had talked about hiring a person, not like our summer maintenance where they're working full-time. It was only going to be 1 day a week because the person we knew was interested in doing it could only work 1 day a week. But we did have a second applicant who works in a surrounding city in their water department, and so he uses GIS. We are very behind in getting structures in there. One person would be working with Marty. Marty obviously isn't going to spend 2 days a week with GIS people. So what I talked to Chris Felton about was that he would spend the time with Marty, and he would be locating on all underground things that we need to get help from Marty with. And then we can have the gentleman who has not worked for us before. He would obviously, like I explained to him that I was coming to the council, so Chris can work on Fridays. So I said he can't work on Fridays because we only have one Trimble, which is the actual locating device that sends a satellite image up to add the location. And so he would have the flexibility to work either 2 half days, Monday through Thursday, if the council approved it, or a full day whenever he wants. For the city that he works at, there wouldn't be a conflict. And so it would be another 8-hour shift. And then what we can have him do is things like manholes, catch basins, hydrants, anything that's above ground. So as soon as he's used to our system and the layers, basically he doesn't have to be out with somebody like Marty. Because what Marty and Chris will be doing is underground. So they have to basically use what Marty knows about things already. But I know Marty can't afford 2 full days. So that's where I first brought in Chris to say like, hey, do you feel like this would work? To be able to have the second person go around and do everything that they can see that they can do on their own. And he thought that was a good idea. And I just, for another $2,000 out of water and sewer, I think we can get a lot more done and try really hard to get better data in this system. Because with the level of work that public works employees have, like, we're just not getting caught up. And if we were to hire a GIS company, you're gonna pay a lot more than what these guys would be able to help us with. So if the council's supportive of that, I would like, recommend approval of 5424.
How much of the mapping is being done roughly percentage-wise? Are we,
Water and 25 to 30%, I'd say. We're pretty far behind. And then, of course, gas and electric has layers as well. They're a little further ahead. I think because Chris was pretty strong in that area when he worked for us full-time, he was the one really getting it populated, and, you know, it does take a bit of a technology comfort level, none of which our current employees just don't have a big comfort level with it, and so it's more challenging. And then, of course, taking on projects like the playground and various things like that just don't really afford them that kind of time. But I'd say 25 to 30, though.
okay.
Would we be able to get done everything this summer?
I'm sure not. A lot further ahead,
Yeah.
you know.
It's
Just kinda
important
have
that
to-
we get it done, though. We just gotta keep chipping away at it until it's completed, because it's gonna be important.
There's just so many things, like some of the trainings that, you know, we have as city administrators, and look at some of the things that they do in cities where it's completely populated. It's just a really great tool that we've paid for and had set up, and we're just, until you get that data in there, it just doesn't do you any good. So,
Are they starting on a certain part of town and working either east, west, north, south, or?
I'm not sure. I have to see. There's certain areas that have more data in them than others. Sometimes it depends, like when we did Garfield, like that construction project, you know, sometimes you do a little project and then you'll get all that data in there, but I think it's somewhat random. So it'll probably, for purposes of this summer, just starting in a place and moving in a direction. But I'll probably, I I let Chris know that I have the iPad in my office. He can't start for another 2 weeks, but I'd like him to take it home and just look at it and make sure that he doesn't have any concerns. So if there's something he has a question about, that I can get Schneider on that. Schneider's our GIS software people, so we're not holding him back on his first day that he can work. So he said he would stop in.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Need a motion on Resolution 54-24.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant, second by Delaney. Roll call?
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Number 19, consideration of resolution number 55-24, fund transfers for fiscal year '24.
After we did the transfers a month ago, I found 2 more that we had not completed yet, so this just completes, there's nothing changed from the original budget. And basically, like, the big number is just that because it's a tax, property taxes under employee benefits, but the employees' expenses get paid for out of the general fund, we're just transferring it, but it's appropriate based on it being a benefit tax levy that it goes in there. And then, if you remember when we did taxes a year ago, we also took a little bit of local option sales tax to kind of fund doing, remember, we put a little bit more in like stormwater and things like that, so that's that last amount there. So that would be resolution 55-24.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Roush. Roll call?
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Number 20, consideration of resolution number 56-24, library change order number 1.
I had promised the council that we would keep you regularly informed about the change orders, and if you recall, when we did the bids, there's a $75,000 contingency in the bid. So for the first $75,000 more that we spend, we are not technically changing the contract with Garling. And at the end of the contract, if we were lucky enough not to spend $75,000, we would actually get a credit at the end, so it's not an automatic. So, there was a philosophy that as long as we were taking it from the 75, that we didn't have to have it approved. But I said that I wasn't comfortable with that, because I don't think that it was our intent to just not keep the council up to speed. So if you turn to page 58, which is the FEH letterhead page, the good news is we actually have a couple credits. So there was a substitution of brick that was simply a cheaper cost than what they had bid. So that's a credit of $4,500. We also had a reduction in some of the mortar, the full height mortar, which is just part of the exterior walls. That was also a credit from Garling for $7,600. When the state reviewed our building information, there was, according to them, too many baffles, which are obviously for sound. There were a couple too many up in the ceiling, and so they asked us to reduce those based on their code review. So that was also a credit of the $685. However, when they did the code review, there were 2 different things that caused us this increase. So the first one was the way, if you remember, when you walk into the corridor off the southwest corner, you're going to go into a hallway that to the left will be the community center room and to the right will be the library. And in that corridor, the way that it was proposed in the plans, according to the state inspectors, was not fire rated appropriate. And so that corridor has to basically be like a U-shaped bubble of fire resistance, so that if something were happening in there, that it's keeping it separate for a certain amount of time from the 2 different sides. And then the ADA door, we have that silo inside. And so technically, as you walk into the little opening in the silo, to be able, it's like a little crevice for kids to sleep, the state came back and said that that was not ADA accessible and that we had to have a door on the backside. And so it's definitely a feature that was in the children's area that we intended to have there. So between those 2 items, they total the $14,000. You'll recall that I discussed on Pierce Street, and these were the things I know that the mayor had talked to me about it when we were, contemplating getting this library designed. But there are some rather inferior stormwater catch basins on Pierce Street. And the one that was not included in the plan, again, FEH hired Beasing instead of hiring MSA, which is fine. They had the choice, but I don't think that Beasing was as aware of some of the failures that we had. So in the contract, they had replacing one that's like by the alley next to Bill's building on the east side of Pierce Street. This one is actually on the west side of Pierce Street, just north of 2nd Avenue. And so in the plans, it was not meant to be replaced, and it is pretty inappropriate to completely redo this and repave it and then have this rotten old catch basin. So I did catch, they had given us a price that was higher than that. And this is the whole structure. So sometimes you'll see things that are, we've talked about that are like $5,000 for what's called an SW 501, which is a single catch basin. But that was where we were only replacing the top and not the full structure down. So that's the price for that. And then a pending cost, I just asked FEH to list these on here so that you know they're coming. If you look at that alley, it's all torn up from where we had to put things. We had to replace stuff. And I don't really see that we're gonna have a nicely, I think I discussed this with you already, but a nice paved alley on the west end where we have our parking lot and then have this kind of gravel patched mess. So they'll be getting us that price. The key fobs that were quoted were a card system instead of a small fob, and I don't really think that the employees are gonna wanna walk around with a big credit card. So it was only this $465, so we changed that. And then the last three are, you'll recall that we talked about having to over excavate the parking lot. We're still waiting on a price for that. There was some over excavation when they found some of the inferior soils, waiting on a price for that. And then actually made some door hardware revisions. We met with the door lock lady, and so we'll be getting a credit for that, which we don't know. So with all of these changes that we have prices for, it's a positive $11,000. So your two choices are to leave everything in the pot of $75,000, which is one choice. Or if you'll recall that our Pierce Street improvements and our road improvements, we weren't really tagging to the library money that's been grant funded, donations, things like that, that we were planning on taking that out of Public Works money, which was like a $50,000 add-on to the price, if you recall. So one of my ideas, and that's where I kind of put that, was that perhaps we say, and I don't mean the parking lot, but I was thinking the alley, which we don't have the price on, and the existing stormwater. They're not really directly related to the library. The mayor had asked us to replace those my first summer here, and we just said, well, let's wait and see what the library has. So to me, those make more sense to not charge to the library. So my thought was leave the things that are truly related to the library in that 75 and then pull out the others for a separate contract price. But it's up to the council. And at the end of the day, it's money it is just a change in the dollars.
Just a quick question on the over excavation. Do we have any kind of thought as to what we're talking about there?
I feel like we discussed it. That was like one of the first times, and I don't remember if it was 5,000-ish,
It was in that neighborhood.
3 to 5 or something like that.
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
tens of thousands. And again, I don't know about the alley, so to me, either we leave everything in the 75, and when we hit 75, regardless of what it is, we come back and change the contract. Or if you want to not tag the alley and the stormwater to the total library project, then we pull those out and have a contract amendment, and then the others come from the contingency. Those are what I would recommend are your two choices. Or if you have another idea. Any thoughts?
I think it makes sense to remove them.
I just like the idea of keeping that stuff that we want to charge to the streets
Yeah.
separate.
Yeah.
And be able to say, like, just because there's just so many donors and so many grants.
Yeah.
Is anyone not okay with that?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. So then what you're approving in this resolution would be that we will, the mayor and Kathy will sign a contract amendment that we will be changing the price of the contract based on the stormwater, which we have, the $9,300. And then when we get the price of the alley, those will both be change orders that the mayor and Kathy would be authorized to sign. And then the rest of them will come out of the contingency of $75,000.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Delaney. Roll call.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Number 21, consideration of resolution number 50-24, set public hearing for budget amendment for fiscal year '24.
So we'll be going over the numbers at the next meeting. This just has an ad in the paper for this week, Wednesday, setting the amendment date, and then we'll discuss it in 2 weeks. Remember, the state requires us to have everything into the state prior to May 31st to make sure that we're official. The big things that are proposed in the ad are, like, we didn't plan on the street sweeper being purchased. We didn't plan on the playground. And remember, when we amend it, it's strictly based on expenses going up. So in the case, for example, where we have to advertise for the playground, remember, it was all donated money. For the sweeper, we took out a loan, which you chose to do, but those all changed the totals. So that was, we also had the Sean, the joint position with the chamber was also decided on in July and August after the budget. So that made an adjustment to general government. So those were the main reasons, and those are posted in the notice that we sent to the paper for Wednesday. So if people are interested in why, it gives an explanation in the ad. So all you're approving tonight is the ad in the paper, and then we'll talk about the numbers in 2 weeks.
I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve resolution.
Motion by
1524.
Second?
Second by Oliphant. Roll call.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Elephant.
Aye.
Reports. Fred? Nothing? Thank you. Library furniture.
We have a meeting on Wednesday that our small committee will be going to Dubuque. There's a warehouse, is it called Piggott? Does everybody know what that is? Office furniture. So we are going to look at some of their samples and have a conversation with them about the types of things that we're looking at. And then we'll decide if, you really just have to deal with a company and then be able to see what they have. So we'll be meeting with them on Wednesday. That's Monica, Melissa, myself, and Marie. FEH will obviously be there with us, and so we'll update you, but that's who our first choice was to meet with.
They're downtown.
I think near your work maybe or something?
Yeah, right across the
It's-
street.
yeah.
They did our building, and then Michael Gale's cousin,
So you've had a
Megan,
good-
from Cascade actually works there, so.
That's what they said. So that's kind of that's what our first thought was, to meet with them. A couple other things, I hired, if you remember, we had a conversation about some of the improvements and painting the doors that you had approved. So Lori Gravel is going to paint our doors black instead of the green. I had one price on the improvements with the structure around, like the pillars and getting those wrapped. I'm waiting for a second price that hopefully I'll have tomorrow, and then I'll let you know which one we hire for that.
Lori does excellent work.
Yeah, she's real nice.
Is the paint going to be removed off these doors? Because you can scratch that off with your fingernail.
Yeah, so basically, it's that we didn't use the right kind of
Yeah.
brush, and we didn't use the right kind of paint. So she has to scrape off the black paint, and then based on what she's using, it should be fine
It'll
over the
be
areas
quick.
that didn't have that little bit of black.
Gotcha.
With regard to the pool, coming along pretty well. If you have driven past, it's full. We were dealing with last week getting the alkalinity situated. Chlorine has gone in today. We have our first employee, Grace Romberg, is back and started today, kind of helping me with some things. She's our assistant manager for the summer. Davis, our manager, is out of town now until right before we open. But everybody's hired. They're turning in their paperwork to Kathy, so we'll be getting that going. We open the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, so we'll have an all-staff meeting on Thursday. We may also do a couple hour, if you remember last year, we had a cloudy start. We had a full, long day. So one of the things that we're doing to try and prevent that is that the guards who can work early will have a brush, and they'll actually be scraping the sides. We think that that was kind of a paint residue that's just very flaky and thin and doesn't go through the filtering system very well. So what we're thinking about doing is maybe like Tuesday night, if it's nice out, before we actually open, doing a 2-hour free session just to get water moving in there and kind of people boinging around, so that we then have some days. We also have the WSI class will be there Wednesday, Thursday for a couple lifeguards that are not certified yet to teach lessons. And then the staff meeting Thursday, have a little break on Friday, and then open Saturday. So for anybody interested in that. We do have a couple changes this year that are gonna affect at least a few $1,000s of salary money that we found out. So Ben is our certified pool operator, and went to his every 5 years, he has to get recertified, so that was his recertification. Kind of had a really good conversation with a lady at the state level. So when we've had adult swim in the past, we have not had a lifeguard on deck. There's a lifeguard on the property, but they've usually been in the concession stand. I wasn't overly comfortable with that, so we've confirmed that based on that, there needs to be an actual lifeguard out on the deck. They're not like fully staffed in the chairs. And so one of the lifeguards will now be assigned, instead of coming in at like 12:15 and the manager was there earlier. You will, if you're in adult swim, see an actual lifeguard on duty, on deck, walking around, watching the adults, both from the 12 to 1 session, and then there'll also be a lifeguard out there from 5 to 6:30. The other thing is, we always had guards at the swim team's practice, which they meet Monday. They used to meet Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for like 2 hours in the mornings. The little kids had an hour and the older kids had an hour. There were always guards there, but there was not a guard assigned to just being a guard and not being part of either the practice or anything else. So there will actually be a guard present, being paid. And we've explained to the swim team, which was a vote of the park board, that we are going to charge them half the cost of that lifeguard, which is estimated to be about $400. So $800 total. And they understand they're charging a small fee to each of the students that's in the team, on the swim team. And so kind of explain that, like, we don't charge them for the facility. Like, we don't charge basketball for the gym, we don't charge volleyball for the gym, and we don't charge baseball for the fields, but we don't pay for like their umps and their refs. So we kind of looked at lifeguards as a similar capacity. But because it's also state regulated, we are charging them half of that. So in case you hear that. But those are the two biggest things. We thought that there was a height restriction on our slide that maybe we weren't enforcing. But the key to that was getting the manufacturer's manual, and that's the key, and that there is no actual height restriction. And so that was good, because they had suggested that we have like wristbands and kind of change the positioning of the chair that's closest to that. So we did confirm that. So that's all for the pool. EMS week is next week. So we just want to, on behalf of the city, thank all of the EMS workers, volunteers that we have. Obviously have a lot of changes and are exciting for them. I'm going to take them, I think, dinner to their meeting on Monday night on behalf of the city. So that's next week. Have a couple grants that I'm going to turn in here in the next week or so. One of them, I'm helping the food pantry. There's the services, just like we provide services, the county has their program. And because the church has taken over exclusive stuff with the food pantry, I've been working with Shelley over there, and we're going to apply to the county for them to get some additional shelving. They have like tables and stuff where they don't really have enough. So I'm working with Shelley to see if we can get some county funding for additional shelving, which might be around $1,200. So that would help them out a lot. So I'm working with Shelley on that. That's due at the end of the month. I'm going to apply to the DRA. The CDC is working on some downtown stuff, and I'm gonna, I think, apply to the DRA for maybe some architectural help with that. And I know that they're working with, trying to get a price from MSA to maybe look at some downtown streetscaping ideas that we could bring before the council. Because if you remember, the DRA is all about planning stuff, not giving us money for things. We had a successful cleanup day. We just had a couple misses. They will be back tomorrow for the ones that were missed. Kathy sent them the list of a few calls that we got. I drove past the Goodwill truck and it was half full, an hour and a half into their 10 hours of open time. So I definitely think that that's been a really good addition to bringing that around garage sales or spring and fall cleanup, and less for us going to the landfill and having to pay for it. So those both went really well this last weekend. And as the mayor said, the Cougar Pride Day, they did a lot of good stuff for us. And I think the prize, yes, the prize goes to the fire hydrant painting crew. You were like, oh my gosh, they're so shiny.
Yeah, you'll be happy with that one.
Yes.
She's
She was
on
our-
it.
Yeah, she was one of our contacts. Chad's daughter was. They did a great job, though. And remember, we were one of the sponsors for the $150, so we got a thank you note saying thank you for sponsoring, and I think our logo is on their shirts. So I think that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I have a question that came up. Okay, so we were talking about key fobs for the library.
Yep.
At what point does it make sense to get all city buildings key fobs? Because I don't know, how many different keys do you guys have to carry around?
We have a whole master system, so we don't.
Okay, so we're all on the
So
same.
I'm working with them to be part of our master program. So then like Phil has a master to everything, I have a master to everything, so I can use the same key here at the pool, like well houses. So it's like you call it a master and then a master of this, and the door lady was like talking a different language, but she knew what she was doing. And so there'll be like one key for the employees. Basically, the biggest thing about the fob system is that there will be 3 doors that can be electronically locked. So if like an employee forgot, like you can go out to the patio facing the park. There will be on the northwest corner an employee-only entrance that will never be unlocked. It's fob only. So they have to come in with a fob so that we know they're there. And then me and Melissa would be the only 2 that have like overriding keys, but just the main entrances, like if somebody forgot to lock it. So we could eventually do that here, but we do have like a master system that currently goes through Mr. Lock and Key out of Dyersville. There seems to be some changes in their business that we're looking into. So it seems pretty organized, but yeah, it's not 50,000 keys. But it's weird how they know how they can do all these things. And they'll be like, when people rent the community room, they will only have access to getting in the building. And then going into the community room, and then like a few other little things that we did, like if a little person ever locked themselves in the bathrooms, that has like one of those universal keys that you could like I was here working on a weekend one day and some little human locked themselves in our bathrooms and like weren't understanding how to turn it back. And so ours actually, like we paid a few extra dollars for the bathroom. At the bathrooms, the 3 bathrooms at the library, that there will be a key. And if you rent the facility, you'll have that same, like you could get somebody out. So just things like that seem really well organized.
I have a couple quick questions to the well. Is everything working?
So we are back in temporary submersible pump mode.
Okay.
So they were able to fish everything out. And now the pump and motor have to be reevaluated, which they said again could take any number of months. I know that our representative from Northway has been in contact with the insurance company. Phil and I were discussing that on Friday, that we haven't really heard from them, so I'm probably gonna reach out to EMCs, whoever our adjuster is for that claim, because they were kind of getting antsy about making sure that it was covered by insurance. Northway was confident that it would be. We obviously haven't gotten any bills yet from Northway for that, but it's a matter now of either determining if the equipment can be repaired or if we'll have to get new equipment between the motor and the pump, and then replacing it. So if you drive past the well house, you'll see all the steel pipes there that are in the parking lot. Those are what have to go back inside.
Just a quick question on the ambulance facility. Is that on, is that,
So I went
for
through there, I talked to
July
Chad, he says everything should be fine for June 1. He's been working well with, I think, Steve Moran and Chris Felton are kind of the 2 reps for the EMS crew that are working with him on the building. They're still doing some of the remodeling, but he says that they'll be ready June 1.
okay.
And so we'll have, remember, the 1 month that will pay 2 rents, so that they have the full month to move of June. And they're working with Joe and Peggy to kind of determine what smaller equipment out of the, if there's things in the building that originally were Joe's when they sold the building, that you may see, like when we bring you our last rent check on the claims, that there'll be an additional cost to, like, if he's not gonna use the tables and they can use them, I think they had agreed, like $30 a table, and there's some file cabinets that they're gonna bring with them, so they're working through that. But as far as I know, everything's ready for June 1. Because you already approved the lease, I'm just waiting for Chad to send me the final document, then we'll have the mayor sign that. And then I've offered that Public Works can help them if they want to. Remember, they also chose not to have that 3rd overhead door. So I know if you saw I think it's on the bills, on the Visa bill this time, they've spent like $1,100 for like some kind of electronic dolly that'll help them steer the trailer into that kind of bay that doesn't have its own door. So they've done some things like that. But they should be good.
I just also like to touch on the point about the remodeling up there and everything. I did hear throughout the community that there was some confusion, or I don't know if it came out to be rumor or whatnot, but there was some confusion in the thought process that people were thinking that the city of Cascade was footing the bill to remodel his building, and I just wanted to clarify to make sure everybody understands that Chad was remodeling that building for
At his
us. Yeah,
cost.
at his cost. It was not the city. He was doing that on his own. That was-
Remember, we approved one small, I think it was
Yeah.
$1,200 to just
Yeah.
have that one wall put in that bay
Right.
in the back.
Was an agreement. I just want to make sure, everybody out there
Good.
listening.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that, but if
Yeah.
that, yeah, definitely. Chad is paying for those items.
I have one question too. I know you said that the city guys, I know they've been crazy busy, but they were gonna finish up some stuff at the dog park. There are some pretty significant holes in.
Under the
with-
fence.
Under
Well,
the
not
fence.
just under the fence, but like
walk.
within, like Augie fell in one. Like, it was pretty, and like my sister's dog's foot went into one, so.
Okay, I will have
Just a
them.
heads up on that.
Yeah, we'll need to put some dirt in those.
Mm-hmm, please.
Yeah, we also, Sean, our summer employee, started today, so we'll also have another, maybe send him up with a load of dirt.
Dog park's been getting a lot of,
A lot of use. Every time I drive by, there's somebody there.
yeah, it's been pretty
People
good.
just feel so much more comfortable having a fenced-in area
Yeah,
to
it's
let them run.
nice.
And Greg did a really great job mowing today. It looks so nice up there.
Yes.
I
I
think
did
once
tell
they
him.
get the Boy Scouts get the little,
Picnic
Yes,
table
that'll
out
be
there.
nice.
oh yeah, great.
It's gonna be so nice.
I'm gonna order the poo bag and garbage thing this week. And then, yes, the Boy Scout thing, and then I'm working with, Big River for signage where it'll say dog park on both ends, and then, rules.
There was a couple of questions. I did actually have somebody say to me, are we aware that the bags are massive?
We didn't put the bags out
Oh,
there.
we
Some
didn't.
random person must have done that.
Oh, okay.
That's not our
That's
poo
kind of
bags.
them.
They're like huge. Are
Are they like grocery bags or something?
Yeah, they're
Or if you have like big dog,
a really big dog.
Dukers
More
instead
like
of little
horse.
ones.
Hey, horses more.
I don't know, I saw like, is it like a little plastic
It's like a
basket or
shower
something?
caddy. It looked
Yeah,
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah, that's not us.
bags are huge.
We're gonna get little cherry bags.
Thank you. At this point, we'll have public comment. You have a limit of 3 minutes per person, only items on this agenda. Seeing none, I need a motion to go into closed session for annual review.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Roush. Roll call.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
We are in closed session.
You have the recorder, Megan?
Mm-hmm.
So our Kathy and
I'm
I
actually
leave.
gonna
I
hit
gotta-
record.
Are we leaving?
Is he?
Yes, please.
Can I turn it off?
Foxcast is off, yep. And then